Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Damilola Balogun. I, excuse me, yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess nice. Yes, we're pleased to have you today at our session. And for today's session, we'll be diving deep into how we can reshape the partnership between the African Union, particularly in this case, the African continent, and the European Union, European Commission specifically. So with this conversation, we want to be able to translate what it means to have a shared prosperity between both continents. We understand that right now the kind of relationship that exists is that of a mere donor and recipient relationship. So we are looking to see how young people can be at the heart of this partnership such that this partnership is able to achieve a resilient and a sustainable future on both continents. And to do that with me today is none other than one of our panelists that is joining us virtually. We have Varinda Garg. Varinda, are you there?
Yes. Hi. Hello, everyone. So we worked together, Dami and I, we worked together for the last 2-3 months together to work on a good initiative to see what kind of synergies could be possible between the African continent and European Union. So excited to be here, and let's have a good discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Varinda. Next to me is our moderator for today. That's Durodoluwa Femi-Ajala. Durodoluwa Femi-Ajala, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Hi. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Lovely. Hi, good afternoon or good morning, everybody. My name, like Damilola said, is Durodoluwa Femi-Ajala, and I'll be your moderator for today. I co-founded the YSDN, similar to Damilola that's standing before you. So, hi, everybody. It's good to be here.
Thank you very much, Durodoluwa. Joining us here in person is none other than Ismail Farji. Ismail, introduce yourself briefly.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Ismail Farji. I'm from Morocco, and I coordinate the African Youth Climate Hub, which is a platform of incubation, capacity building, networking, and connection for African youth with relevant stakeholders in the continent.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Of course, we also have with us Mr. David Arinze. He's a global focal point on SDG 7 constituency. He's also an electrical engineer, but I'll just let him do his thing.
Greetings, everyone. My name is David Arinze. Damilola, thank you for that kind introduction. I wear quite a couple of hats, but yes, one of the hats which I'm very delighted and always happy to talk about is how I serve as the global focal point for the SDG 7 Youth Constituency, which is the official mechanism under the UN and UN structure for engaging youth on the subject of energy. And so we tend to engage a lot more on with UN organizations such as UNDESA, UNDP, but I also serve as an advisor with the UNDP Energy Governance team and work in Nigeria as a renewable energy professional, supporting clean energy businesses to implement projects in a bankable manner. It's a pleasure to be here. Dami, back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you again to our panelists and our guests here today. Again, today we're just going to deep dive into the topic on how to reshape the partnership between the African continent and the European continent. And this conversation is very much important because we understand that for us to be able to achieve something we have never achieved, in this case, a shared prosperity sort of partnership, we think it is important that young people are able to position to achieve a better narrative. So, today, our moderator today, Durodoluwa, the floor is now yours. You can begin to deep dive and, of course, ask our panelists questions.
Thank you so much, Damilola. It's good to have you both here today. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Ishmael. Good afternoon, Mr. David. So I'll be launching in, and good afternoon, Varinda, joining me virtually. So I think I would like to start with Varinda, since she's on the virtual platform, same as me. So our very first question. So Varinda, understanding that you work with, you're a consultant for JET ESCP, and it's based out in Europe, and you've had, similar experiences with African continent. So what do you believe, or how do you believe that young people in both Africa and Europe can effectively collaborate on climate action and energy?
Thank you for the question. So from my perspective and from the youth perspective, so young people in Africa and Europe, both continents hold immense potential to collaborate efficiently on the climate action and energy transition initiatives. Their energy, creativity, technology prowess can be harnessed into a drive transformative change and build a more sustainable future for both continents, and it could be a global reach as well. So first of all, it could be establishing cross-continental networks and partnerships. Some of the organizations like Student Energy exist who work with young people. They connect, exchange ideas, collaborate on projects. They have around 35,000 volunteers, youth volunteers. So these type of networks, synergies can facilitate knowledge sharing, joint research, campaigns to amplify the voices of young climate leaders, which could later on build a more sustainable future for both continents. Youth can leverage digital technologies for collaboration, for example, social media or video conferencing. These type of platform can provide a powerful communication infrastructure and enable them to work together on virtual projects. For example, right now I am in London and this conference is happening in Dubai. So this kind of resources are quite important in sharing these resources. Organizing online events can have a good perspective, good sharing of that experience, could have a better it's like a better platform and connectivity for everybody across both continents. So they could encourage the technology transfer and knowledge sharing, and accelerate the growth of energy transition both in Africa and Europe, and reduce the energy transition, like more the continent's reliance on fossil fuels. So another thing could be youth people. Mostly it's the role of education plays a role, like a huge role in sustainability. So there are a lot of programs, there's a lot of training and workshops or conferences that can bring young people together and foster cross-cultural understanding, strengthen their skills, and inspire more collaboration. So, and this could eventually lead where young people can engage with policymakers and decision makers. Lobbying, public awareness campaigns, and direct communication can help actually influence more decision-making processes, and this could later attract more young people as well.
Thank you, Varinda. So I would like to take off from there, and that will lead up to my next question based on some of the things you mentioned. And one of the things you mentioned was projects. So this goes to Ishmael. So Ishmael, this is now your question. Based on, because Varinda mentioned project is an important way to for collaboration. So, and taking off from your background, you're the coordinator for African Youth Climate Hub, and you're the head of programs too. So you've had a bit of experience in project management, in programs that have been effected over the time you've been there. So based on your own experiences, what are some of the successful projects or youth-led projects that have been executed probably within your tenure or before you got into that position that you have seen actually work in this space? And I think this then leads up to why were they so successful? I think that's the most important thing. If you can identify why they were so successful, then people can then learn from those things. So Ishmael?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. It is indeed a very timely question, because we are currently within the African Youth Climate Hub launching our second edition. And for those who don't know the African Youth Climate Hub, it is a platform that concretely supports African youth to make their dreams come true when it comes to sustainable entrepreneurship. that has been launched in 2019 by Her Royal Highness Princess Lala Hasna in New York. And since then, we have been working on several components, and the major one is our incubation program, which counted in its first edition 10 projects from 9 African countries who went through a 6-month incubation. So before I deep dive in some of the projects that are successful, although all of them are successful, I would like to take some time to highlight about the process on how we developed this and how it is important to actually believe in youth and believe in the capacities of youth. So before we came up with the incubation program as it is, at the beginning we had this idea of bringing a full-on something ready from the global north, going to a university or going to a global accelerator and bringing them into Morocco and then building this platform. And then we understood that we had 2 issues. First of all, it's a matter of money. It is very expensive to run an incubator or an accelerator. And second of all, we believe that we are not actually being faithful to our philosophy, which is building something by youth and for youth. And therefore, what we did is that we launched a survey asking African youth what are their needs and what are their expertise that they could provide for sustainable entrepreneurship. And soon enough, we received a couple of answers where we quickly understood that young individuals in the African continent know exactly what they want and what they need. But more than that, they are able to provide voluntarily expertise in order to help share knowledge and build capacity of other African youth. And so that's how we proceeded. We got some partners from the private sector, partners from academia in Morocco, and we started building this incubator that is 100% built by youth and for youth. The whole process is youth-led, and most importantly, all knowledge produced is African knowledge. And therefore, we are investing in African professors, we are investing in African youth experts, holder of initiatives, to actually nurture this incubation program. And therefore, it was during COVID, so we suffered a lot. We suffered a 9-month delay in launching our incubation program. So we had people that submitted to an incubation program and did not hear about us for 9 months. We got out of COVID. We were a bit anxious about it because we had 225 projects that we received, and we selected 10, and we weren't sure at all if we will get those projects actually to respond to us. And quickly, when we sent those emails, all 10 projects replied positively to our request and joined our incubation program for 6 months. And the way we did it, in case, instead of having a program already set and then going to see specific typologies and level of maturities of projects, we built our program around the projects that were selected. So we got projects from the ideation phase until the pre-acceleration phase, and we put them all together. And we brought 1 expert for 2 projects, and then we started the incubation process for 6 months. Weirdly enough, what we realized that actually the development or the evolution of the project holder and the project itself is way faster than usual incubation programs. As a matter of fact, in only 6 months, the 10 project holders generated accumulated revenue of $500,000. They unlocked about 30 partnerships within the African continent, including funding. And they also created close to 20 job opportunities, local green job opportunities within the continent. Now, why is it important to highlight something specific, which is the power of youth in developing these kind of things? What we saw is that when young people are interacting with each other, there is not this problem of ego, there is this problem of the need to learn more and the need to learn quick. When you interact with an African young entrepreneurs, what they want to reach objectives and they want to have results very quickly. And therefore, they are very flexible, they adapt quickly, and they are able to understand the context in which they are developing. It went even further than that, that project holders from some countries are already figuring out how to be working in Morocco and also expanding to the African continent and even more here to the Middle East. And let me give you one example of a couple of projects that are very important to highlight when it comes to different categories. We have one project from Egypt, for example, that's called Noor Nation. They have a box that pumps water, desalinates and filters water using solar energy. And the way that this Livebox works, you can basically install it in remote areas in the country where you don't have access to electricity and you don't have access to water. And they can basically either pump the water or desalinate the water for agriculture without using much space. And we all know that in agriculture, space and land is the most important thing. And therefore, when you have a box that doesn't use a lot of space and is able to increase or improve your crops, that's very important. More than that, we have also projects that, apart from the agribusiness aspect, and are already successful. As a matter of fact, this project has just won a prize with UNICEF under Innovation Under 30. We have also other projects that leverage technology for that. We have a Nigerian project, for example, that has a cash flow of approximately $20,000 a month, which basically is a very simple application. If you have recyclable waste, you basically go on that application, and then you click on the type of waste you have, and you will be able to sell that waste. And then you could be connected to a recycling center, or the individuals that gather the waste, and they come get your waste, and you get in return either cash, either you get mobile data, either you get vouchers so that you can go buy your groceries. And the way that the most important part in that is not the fact that it is a well-working project using instant payment in Nigeria. Most importantly, the project holder himself is taking part of the revenue and investing it in capacity building for women in the region. So not only we have successful project holders that are making revenues, but most importantly, they are reinvesting in the society. So they are the ones that are the closer to the local aspect, and that's what needs to be highlighted. And that's what shows actually the success of these project holders. We see the success through the capacity of the project holders in empowering their own within their local communities because they are the closer to the ground and they're the closer to the needs of those individuals. When you see that actually, even though those are really young startups and they are recruiting and also giving internships, paid internships for about 300 individuals, that means that these individuals do care about the society and they do care about the youth that they are engaging. And instead of having a sort of a capitalistic mind where they just need to exploit the youth, they actually empower them. And I will end on a note that is maybe summarizing everything when it comes to how it is important to link the exchanges between both regions. Is that these project holders do not only make revenues and invest in their society, these project holders are also creating new sustainable entrepreneurs by giving them access to new technologies. We have now new 10 projects for the second edition, and we have half of them that are already using artificial intelligence, IoT, in order to, especially in the field of agribusiness, in order to implement those aspects. So we should not see the African continent as a continent that is only needing support, but we could also see the African continent as a continent where we could invest in its youth in order to create value within the continent, but also impact other regions. And I believe it is very important to change a bit the framework of thinking of how we should address the African continent, because we are not only addressing people that have needs, but we are also addressing people that do actually have extensive expertise that could be used in a wise manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that detailed explanation on the successful project. And you also get to see how you were able to successfully implement through the incubation program. So I want to take it off from there with our next speaker, Mr. David Arinze. So considering that, you have a lot of experience and most of the years you have spent in your career line have been on energy, right? So taking it off from where Mr. Ishmael stopped on the fact that there are a lot of successful projects in Africa that can actually emerge from Africa. So what would you then say, or how can the European Union, and I take this from the fact that you have had, you are an African and you've also had experiences in other regions such as European Union. So how can the European Union European Union and African Union enhance their collaboration to better address climate change and energy transition? And I want us to take it from the part of shared prosperity, especially that, Mr. Ishmael has highlighted how there's a wealth of experience, there's a wealth of projects in the African climate.
Thank you so much for the question, and it's such a pleasure to be here. The question is multidimensional, but the good thing about the response to, or providing some responses to the question is, there's already that collaboration that exists. If you're very conversant with the Africa-Europe Energy Partnership, the AEP, was set up specifically to address things like this. And through the AEP, because I'm also a member of that collective, and through the AEP, what are we trying to do? To foster collaboration between the African Union countries and Europe for a shared, to achieve the energy transition through a shared prosperity mindset. But having said that, it's important that we need to look more inwards as an African continent, especially because you tend to see the conversation around, we have developing countries and developed countries. So you can say almost the EU is developed, African countries are developing. But that creates a huge opportunity for collaboration, because for us to be able to meet the energy access gap, to effectively, equitably, and inclusively meet the energy transition, there has to be that level of collaboration. And I can say that, to answer this question, there are a couple of things that we need to leverage. One, innovation. And what do I mean by innovation? Some of these technologies have been tested and trusted. But another thing that is critical is enhancing local capacity to replicate the same. And so that's one key thing that the EU and Africa are already working on, but can be further enhanced. Because you think about it today, speaking for the work that we do in Nigeria, for example, any major installation you need to get done in the country, equipment have been imported. Panels, batteries, inverters, charge controllers, and even the people that do the installation. And that tells you that for us to effectively think about it from a shared prosperity perspective, we need to create a level playing ground for collaboration, knowledge transfer, encourage local manufacturing. Then, of course, we can begin to think about it from a more shared rather than hand-me-downs. Africa is a place of very huge potential. Of course, the challenges are enormous, but it also presents a lot of opportunities, especially when it comes to energy. And so it's critical that we think about innovation transfer, innovation collaboration. How can we ensure that the knowledge that has already significantly scaled, in Europe can come in? So that's one, innovation. Two, there's also an opportunity for huge policy support. You can't overemphasize that. Today in Nigeria, I tell you, that being the largest black nation in the world, the largest economy in Africa, and also with a deficit of over 100 million people, damn me if I'm wrong, please correct me. I'll tell you for a fact that even today, we are still advocating for policies that could help open up the market. We already see a huge collaboration between the EU in helping to address this, but much more emphasis needs to be made. We cannot really transition, and equipment are not easy to reach, are not readily available in the market, or if they are available, they're very expensive. So also creating a very good environment. I will tell you that right here at COP, a number of MOUs have been signed. Earlier, the first 2 days of COP at the Nigeria Pavilion, we signed a a 1 gigawatt solar PV manufacturing. This was with the Netherlands government, right? And that's the EU. So when I say that this sort of collaborations are already happening, they are happening, but we need to scale them. But there's also a lot of need for support, on the policy side. Then another critical thing is financing. You cannot achieve energy transition without the relevant source of financing. Across multiple countries in Africa, Ghana has launched the energy transition plan. Nigeria has launched its energy transition plan, and many other countries in Africa. But for us to be able to achieve those energy transition plans, it has to be financed. And I beg to say that these plans have to be financed, or has to finance bankable engagements. Because energy is a business, make no mistakes about it. And it must be paid for, it's not a social enterprise. And so it's important as well that collaboration to support country governments to ensure that there are bankable models for us to be able to unlock the kind of financing that is required is made available. Earlier in the year, it was launched at the Spain International Renewable Energy Conference, the Financing Renewable Energy Landscape Report. You see that less than 5% of global spending on renewables, less than 5% was in Africa. And you ask yourself, isn't that strange? We have a continent with over 600 plus million people, yet receiving the least financing. It's not that the money is not there, it is. But investors need to be sure they're not flushing their monies down a toilet. And how do you change this narrative? You can only change it when country governments are given the kind of support that they need to prove the bankability of the space. And so these three areas, I talk about innovation, I talk about finance, I talk about policy. As I try to wrap up, I want to applaud the relationship that is already existing between the EU and Africa. I mean, through the Africa Energy Partnership and through other initiatives, we have seen strong collaborations, which we cannot but commend. But it's important that we cannot wait 100 years to get everybody the necessary access that they need. So we need to be able to accelerate things, move faster. And I would wrap up this comment by saying, we need to look in that direction. Let's read it. Let's unite. Let's act. Let's deliver. Together, let's pioneer the possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. At least from there, we're able to then, because he said something very important about policy. I think that was like his third point. And that then leads us to our last question for this session, because policies are a vital part of the transformation in which we seek. So over to you, Ms. Tolulope Gbenro. So understanding that you have been in the sustainability space for quite some time, right? So what do you then believe are policies that can be or that can help to create a supportive environment for youth-led initiatives?
All right, thank you for that question, Drew, and thank you, everyone. So I think first I would start by saying regulatory frameworks, right? Because we're dealing with innovation, and most of the time what we see happen is the government waits for the innovation to come, and then they create frameworks that makes it difficult for those innovations to thrive. So we definitely need a general regulatory framework that is supportive of innovation so that innovations can thrive. Next, I would say getting youth involved in policy making. I mean, there's so much conversation around having youth involved and giving youth a seat at the table. And if we're being realistic, what we even see happen now is we see a different table being created for young people, and it's just like, oh, they just need money or they just want to be busy, so let's keep them busy. And majority of the inputs from young people are not always incorporated in general policy. So there's definitely the need for youth representation, not to say that we are politically correct, but because we need to mainstream youth voices and youth innovations into those solutions that we have. Then next I would speak about is generally going to be taxation. We're having a conversation earlier today with some young people, and we see that for the generations ahead of us, they were able to create sustainable businesses that have lived for over a decade, 10 decades, because they had flexible taxation systems when they were starting their enterprises. But now we see that the taxation system is built to basically, I would say in quotes, choke, or basically to destroy young businesses. So it does not allow young businesses to get to a point where they thrive. If a young person wakes up today and says, oh, they have an innovative idea or an innovative solution, the taxation system is literally squeezing the money that they are yet to even get from investment. So it doesn't allow youth initiatives to thrive. And I think these are general changes that we would like to see in policy. So I'll go over them again. First one is having a general innovative regulatory framework. The second one is actually involving youth at the table, because we want to mainstream youth ideas into policy making. And then the third one is having a flexible taxation system that allows for young innovative entrepreneurs to grow their business. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tolulope. I think that wraps up our conversation with the panelists, and I'd like to hand it over to Damilola to take over for the question and answer session. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Durodoluwa. Thank you so much, Mr. Ismail, Mr. David, and Ms. Tolulope Gbenro. It's been a wonderful session so far. I think for me, one thing that stood out is that we need to prioritize innovation. Innovation is very important. I think that's one thing that stood out amongst all of the panelists. The impact of the work of, for example, the African Youth Climate Hub with supporting ideas for young Africans to be able to bring their ideas to life is something that is very awesome. Policies, very, very important as well. I think it is important that we are able to work together and ensure that young people are able to be represented, not necessarily politically correct, as emphasized by Ms. Tolulope Gbenro. Moving on, we will just open the floor to take just 2 questions from our audience. Any questions? Do we have any questions from the audience?
You were so good at talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's a question here somewhere.
All right. I just stand here. Oh, the camera. It will find me. Okay, perfect. So my name is Sam. My question would be just maybe to any panelist here. We talk about innovation being an enabler to all of this, but my question is, how can we actually translate that to the local context and make it accessible? Because I know a lot of young entrepreneurs, they lack access to financing and all that. So maybe what are some of the steps, as a young entrepreneur you can take to be able to, number one, unlock the financing for the innovation? And of course, receive mentorship as well. Maybe you might have any networks that we can join or be a part of that can now help us really build our enterprises to be more strong and more resilient. Thank you.
Anybody? Okay, all right.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, because you're addressing, if not the main challenge we are facing within the hub, and not only in terms of financing, but actually just in terms of allowing young entrepreneurs from remote areas in Africa accessing the opportunity. And I will give you just one simple example. We have one project from Uganda that got selected. We had to get him 3 visas. He had to go through 3 countries to go from Uganda to Morocco to get 4 days of incubation. So how is that normal that to travel from an African country to another African country, you have to go through Middle East, Europe, and then go back to Africa? So that's the main issue that we have within the African continent, is we don't have governments collaborating with each other to unite the continent. The first thing that we need is to be able to have this facility to, first of all, build the capacity of our young people. The opportunities are there, but the problem is that we fall into so much processes and so much difficulties that it becomes almost impossible to reach that. Another problem, which is more related to the financing, is more related, well, the aspect of taxes and the aspect of incentives, that's a point that is on the basis of it. But the other problem that we are facing is simply bureaucracy. It's very complicated to fit a young entrepreneur's mindset who wants the results really quickly and actually showing results really quickly with a huge company or a huge fund that needs to go through several bureaucracy levels, and that those forms most of the times do not apply to that young entrepreneur because it doesn't reply to all the criteria that they have. And then we end up spending so much time in those processes and actually forgetting that this project is already making enough impact. And I think we have to change the mindset, especially when it comes to addressing climate change through business, because as my colleague said, it is a business. We have to switch this mindset of thinking that we are saving the world just because we are good people. No. People are making money out of it, and people are actually creating jobs out of it, so we have to have the same mindset. If we have this mindset, we will find results easier than what we actually expect.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Ismail, you couldn't have said it better. As I think about the question, the truth is, as youth, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an innovator, you have to, at the back of your mind, just know that it's going to be tough. And you need to come from a resilience perspective. First of all, have that mindset. It's critical. And when you have that mindset, swing for the fences. For example, there are several programs across the African continent, even across the globe. I would speak about the USADF program, Off-Grid Energy Challenge. Every year, we have a call for application that is Africa-wide. And when you're successful in your country, you get between $100 and up to $250,000 in grant capital for your business. The interesting thing about USADF is this: we have funded companies that had never implemented a mini-grid before, that claimed that they wanted to do a mini-grid, for example. We funded projects by just believing in the concept. But one key thing about the program is, beyond just providing you funding, we like to call it guided financing. So we would not just give you money, but we would guide you along the way. Because for us, we know that majority of our CEOs of the companies and the team that we fund or finance are young people. And today, in fact, last year, one of them became a Forbes 30 under 30 CEO in Nigeria. So we've seen meaningful work, and they have been on several platforms: Bloomberg, CNN, Al Jazeera, you name it. Why am I giving you these testimonials? I'm trying to make you understand that it's possible. So look out for certain opportunities that fit what you're trying to achieve. There are several opportunities out there, but you must go for what may be the link between where you are and where you can be. We have seen that for us, for example, when we fund it to implement projects, we ensure that whatever project we're funding, we must do a financial model that proves its bankability. Though we're not expecting you to pay returns in investment, to give us any financial returns in investment, but what we're trying to do is to be able to prep you up to have a financial mindset or a bankability mindset towards your intervention or project and even the business itself. Because when it is done in that manner, when a typical investor approaches you, he sees that you're making profits and he says, hey, if you had this injection and this is what you're able to do, if we do X, we can likely achieve this set of results, right? And so it's important that you look at this sort of programs that ensure. There are some programs that want you to come all ready. There are some that are willing to work with you through the journey. And guess what? Through these businesses, easily, we've unlocked millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in follow-on financing. Because for us, it's not just to implement a project with your company, but after your company has implemented what we were funding, we're literally thinking about how do we achieve full-on financing through your business. And so we need to have that mindset. Several times I've spoken in different platforms, and I asked even entrepreneurs across Africa, I said, how many of you like me believe that grant money is free money? And you see some hands go up in the air. And the truth is, the kind of perspective you have towards this sort of financing will go a long way in how you spend it. If you see it as an injection that must yield results, and you're willing to stay at it, it would yield results. I mean, there are several testimonials I can share. But if you see it as monies that should be flushed down the toilet, it will be flushed down the toilet. And that's just the simple truth. So it's important that you have the right perspective to the finance, be willing to be resilient, and talk to people. Do not be shy to talk about the incredible work you do, especially when you believe in it and when you're sure that it has the capacity to make a meaningful impact. I'll pause here.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We would not be able to take further questions at this time because we are out of time. Thank you to our panelists, Mr. Ismail, Mr. David, Ms. Tolulope, and Varinda, as well as Durodoluwa for a wonderful moderation. We look forward to taking the conversation further. At least at the end of the day, we want to be able to put action to all of what we've done. And then, yes, I'm certain that this would have definitely motivated young Africans and Europeans listening to us in person or virtually to change the narrative as far as the partnership is concerned. Because, of course, Africa is a place to invest in. And, of course, it's not a place seen as hopeless. Thank you.